Take Two, beach volleyball with Bourne and Travis Mewhirter, presented by Marriott Vacation Club Rentals and brought to you by volleyballmag.com. We had a wild week of volleyball. So we had the Huntington Beach 4-star, which was 48 teams per gender. Then we had the college NCAA Beach Championships, which congratulations to UCLA for their first Beach National Championship. Then we had the Indoor National Championships, which UCLA did not win. That went to Long Beach State, so congrats on them for the first national title since 1991. Whoa. And today our guest, we have a player from the Huntington Beach 4-star event. We got Adam Roberts. What's happening, bud?
Not too much.
Hey, Rob.
Yes, glad to be here. Thank you.
So take us through the Huntington event, just from your side as a player, because the format we've never seen before. 48 teams. We had 16 American, all kinds of international teams. Just what were your thoughts on it? Good event, awesome event?
I thought it was an awesome event. I thought it was a really cool way for us to see different levels of the world, which at the highest level, of course, Tri's seen it. I've been able to play some international events, but to have them there in your backyard was pretty amazing. It was pretty awesome that we were able to do a mixture of American versus the world and so on and so forth versus each other. The setting and the ball really favored those guys. I've seen some of the other teams and other players internationally come in the past. They come to the Manhattan Open with deep sand and a Wilson ball, and things all get switched up and changed around or whatever. But that's how the Olympics are done, and those guys were very high level, as we all saw.
Yeah. So you played the Germans in the first round, right? So you had Bachmann and Flugen.
Yes.
And then now you were playing with Spencer Souter, who our listeners are probably not too familiar with, but likely will be soon. So Spencer, he came out of Penn State. To kind of introduce, I guess, Spencer to our listeners.
Yeah, Spencer's 23. He's born and raised in the Chicago area. He played indoor most of his life. And I guess he was really small until like his senior year, like 5'6".
What?
And all of a sudden he shot up. I guess maybe his junior year he was like 6 foot, and then I don't even think he fully ended up being 6'7" until like after his freshman year at Penn State. Initially, actually, he was a libero at Penn State his first year there.
6'7" libero.
Yeah, really getting up to 6'7". But yeah, he's a really awesome, great guy, very hard worker, and he had kind of played beach his whole life with his buddy back home. Played all 4 years at Penn State. I think he started 3 of them there. Said he really wanted to give beach volleyball a shot. Moved out to California, and big 6'7" blockers get in the mix quick. So he was actually John Mayer's training partner last year, and that's when he really turned some heads. And he's a great guy. Great guy. I was very excited to play with him.
And how did he handle first crack at Bachmann and Flugen, who were in the 2016 Olympics? That's a big moment, especially because Spencer only had, I think, two or three main draws of experience at that point.
Yeah.
Thrown into
With
the
the way
fire.
the system worked, I was lucky enough to have a couple FIV points, so I pulled him in terms of this, and he was very thankful at first. And said, you'll be in the mix plenty of times, so don't worry about that. But he was excited. He was very excited. It was just a whole anxious another level, but he played very steady. He's a very steady, solid player, and he did a great job. So I was excited to have him out there playing his steady ball, and it was good. Yeah.
And so you guys had the Germans, and then you had the young Russians. And how are the young Russians? Because we've seen that they've won 2 FIVBs this year, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce their names, but they're only 21 and 20, I think, which is the same age as the young Norwegian team. I don't know if you got to see them, but what are your thoughts on the young Russian team? Like, is that an Olympic contender type team?
I think it is. I played a full season or a year or two with Andrei Belov, who was in the Russian system. And so Andrei and I actually went to Russia for 5 weeks. So I kind of got to see a little bit of their training. And as Russians, they are very intense. They are very strict. They're a very straight line. And so I'm assuming that for them to see such a young, up-and-coming talent, they will not let that team not focus on the Olympics. They'll have blinders on there for sure from the Russian Federation. But those guys are very talented, very talented. The blocker is just in your face 24/7. And that springy defender is fast and he jumps high and hits hard. So yeah, they're very talented. very talented, but they are young. So we kind of started off strong in the beginning. You could see them, an anxious nerve, whereas like, John Hyde would be like, hey, it's 8-2, long match, let's not freak out. But yeah, as far as talent level goes, they are one of the tops in the world. I would have to say that they, in theory, could be one of the medal contention teams as you're looking forward.
Yeah, you saw pretty much everyone this weekend doing, just between being there all weekend and doing the live stream. Who were you most impressed by? Obviously, our boys Alex Brower and Robert Musin, who apparently were the Good Luck podcast.
Right.
We have them on 6 days before their final, and they dominate Andre and Evandro. So I thought Brower was unreal. But who were you most impressed by this weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Russian team you were talking about, I was impressed because I haven't been able to be on F5B tour this whole past year. So 2 years ago, when I was on tour, I saw those young Russians, and I'm like, okay, like these guys are going to be pretty good one day. Like I'm here to dominate them for a little while, but now I take a year off and I come see them here, and they're a top team in the world already. So they're definitely a lethal team. I don't think they had a great tournament, but neither of the Russian teams did. Well, Alex Brower went off in the final, so he was kind of the MVP of the tournament. That was a pretty impressive performance. I don't know, it was just so fun. I feel like every match I watched was like a potential final. I mean, we watched the Hermosa Beach Open final for the AVP last year was Gibb and
It was Crab and Crab. And that was a match for 25th or 33rd or something crazy like that.
Loser took 25th, I think. But who was impressing me? Man, my head is spinning through so many players. I showed up at the qualifier day, and then I showed up all 4 main draw days and called the live stream for the last 3 days. But from the women's side, I was really impressed too with some of the Brazilian ladies, and then of course the Canadian girls are really impressive. They're super deep. Who's good on the men's side?
I thought Alvaro and Simon were pretty unbelievable. They had an awesome match with Reed Pretty and Casey here. I don't know if either of you guys got to see that one. It was at the same time as Casey Patterson and Stafford Slick were playing the Austrians, Doppler and Horst. And so I would just kind of toggle back and forth between points, and it was pretty epic between those two because it was just, I mean, Reed and Jeremy are just bombing serves, and Alvaro and Simon are just bombing serves, and Simon swings at everything. He'd be 20 feet off the net, and he's taking a rip.
Yeah, see, I was in the stadium like the whole time, so I missed a lot of the good matchups in the outside court, but towards the end of the tournament, it was really fun to watch the Latvians and the Spaniards go at it, because it was a little bit of a wind ball, and all 4 of those players are very versatile. They can all block, they can all defend. So it was really fun to see how they adapted in the wind. And I think the best players in the world are going to step up in those situations and change their game, but for the better when it's windy.
And Adam, I think you've probably played in more events than anyone playing right now, right? Is that either you or Hayden, right?
That's correct, yeah. A buddy of mine's kind of kept up with it. He was telling me that as far as active players goes, I've played more AVPs than anybody active at this time, or Hayden or Gil. I started a couple years before those guys. So yeah, I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot. Yeah, it's been fun.
I didn't know that stat for when I was on the live stream. I'm giving Hayden too much credit out there.
Yeah, I got about a couple years.
So, I mean, just longevity-wise and motivation, like how have you staved off burnout for so long, just staying in it? And 2, like, how's your shoulder?
Yeah, well, first I don't swing that hard, so there goes the shoulders. High line every time. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, it's just been fun for me. It's a competitive aspect. I played basketball in college all 4 years at Elon University, small Division I school in North Carolina. And the funny thing is that after, of course I played basketball my whole life, since I was 10. So anytime I see anybody in that realm who knew me from that age, from 10 to 21, they're like, oh my gosh, you don't play basketball anymore? And they're like, you don't even miss it? And I'm like, I really don't, because I have this other competitive aspect. So for me, it's just a competitive thing that I need and want in my life. And yeah, I love it just like I just started yesterday. So in every aspect of it, and I've always enjoyed the training, and this is a lot different than any other sport you'll ever do, especially growing up as a kid, because not many people have coaches, so it's all self-motivated, it's all putting yourself out there, and I like that, hey, if you work harder than this guy on your own, then, you can succeed in it, and I've always enjoyed that.
And I know that basketball, just throughout the history of beach volleyball, has been a very common transition sport. Mike Dodd was drafted by the San Diego Clippers when they were still a basketball team, and then he made the full-time switch, and stories like that are pretty common. So how did you make the transition from basketball to beach volleyball?
Yeah, for me, I was super late on starting beach volleyball. I was in college playing basketball at Elon, which is in Burlington, North Carolina, about 4 hours from the beach. I moved to Myrtle Beach for fun during the summer, and everybody went to the beach to lay out for the day. Bored half to death about 15 minutes into it. I was like, I need to do something here. I was like, what are those guys doing? So we went over, started playing beach volleyball with my buddy, and I kind of used it as a cross-training sport all 4 years in college. When I went into college, I wasn't even able to dunk, and then it was the biggest year between my sophomore and junior year that I did tons of sand training, weighted vest training, and I actually went back and I ended up winning 4 dunk contests, believe it or not, in college. So it was kind of a cool thing. It was just helping my basketball game. I was jumping higher, I was dunking easier. So I really enjoyed using that as like my cross-training sport. And then when I graduated, I was like, man, I'm really going to give it a shot. Actually, one of my first events ever was on my graduation day. I skipped it for an AVP event in Houston. So I did not walk in my graduation to start to try to play pro beach volleyball.
That's funny. It's funny because Logan Weber, who made the main draw with David Ryan Vandermeer, did the same exact thing. He skipped his graduation to play in this event, and then he ended up making main draw. So good on them. Actually, funny stat out of the qualifiers: all 4 guys who came out of the qualifier for the men in the U.S. were from like Ohio and Michigan. None of the California guys made it through, which is interesting.
That is very interesting.
But what was your signature dunk?
The funny thing was, that's a good one. We always said, we're like, on tour can't dunk, and so on and so forth. About once a year around my birthday, I'll go up there and I'll make sure I can still get it in. So yes, I can still dunk. I don't really try to get more. I'm more worried about like some weird Achilles injury or whatever. So I just try like something simple. But yeah, I had 3 good dunks. One was like a off the bounce, kind of lean in. One was off the backboard or like off the back wall kind of thing. I needed that double arm lift every time. And then one was like this like lean in windmill. And they were all with good timing. I think I dunked in a game like once, and it was just awful. It was just, and I was not a game dunker. I'm not claiming I'm going on top of anybody like that. But I had really good timing, and if it was a 3 dunk contest, 6-foot white guy, I usually did pretty well. If it was 4, I was out. I was out. I'm not doing it. I know my limits. So yeah, I had it was fun. It was fun. I really enjoyed all the aspects of that. I miss it, but yeah, it's good.
I mean, you've weathered the AVP through all kinds of different eras. Do you remember what year your first AVP was?
I do. Well, the first ever one was 96, but I was basically 98. I started playing all of them, Dan Camacho, and that was the year that it had folded. And one of the reasons we ended up being able to play in them because they weren't paying for last place. And we probably really weren't good enough to really be making main draws, but people weren't traveling to them. They're like, oh, we're not paying for last place. And at that time, only 2 teams made it from the qualifier. So I remember the first ever event I qualified for was in Cleveland, 16 teams in the qualifier, only 2 made it in. So we made it in, and then after one event, we had enough points to continue to keep going. So that was a year of a down year in terms of the AVP, was switching ownership, and since 98, 4 or 5 different owners possibly. And so I've definitely seen quite a bit.
Yeah, have you ever been tempted to just, like, after, the 3rd owner or the 4th owner, the 5th owner, you're just like, all right, I'm out, I'm finally out, or you just...
Yeah, no. I just think that this sport is such a great fun. It's the sun, it's the summer, sun, the fun. Like, I remember every year people are worried, like, oh my gosh, new ownership, what's going to happen? I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, somebody will get it,
right,
and somebody will be able to do something with it. And that's seemingly what's happened, except maybe 2011. And, for me, at my rank where I am, I'm a little bit different than maybe like Hayden or Phil, that are, trying to support a whole family. At this point, I'm not. And so for me, I just want to feel like a professional. I don't want to show up and have it be, a glorified CBD event. So if, pretty much every single one of these owners have done that, and I'm thankful for it.
And this weekend, I mean, I think if there's any weekend that made you feel like a professional, this is probably close to the top of that.
Yes, I would totally agree. Yeah, and not only the event, the way it was ran, everything about it was absolutely amazing. But then having the status of those players there, you're walking in and out. I mean, the hotel was amazing. Can't thank those guys enough for that. But just being around all that and seeing, everybody around, the Brazilians, the Germans, you put all that together, and it truly was an absolute awesome World Tour event.
Walking through the players' tent was kind of crazy because I knew everyone just off of YouTube, but there's just something about like seeing, Losiak and Cantor in person. And it's funny because they were the exact same in person. Like, they didn't say a word. I was just kind of like eyeing their table for like 10 minutes and they still didn't say anything. I've still never seen them talk. Even on YouTube, like when they're playing, just no words at all.
Yeah, the players tent was a little bit taller than usual this weekend. I had to show my ID like 4 times. They're like, players only. I'm a player, I swear. Players are like 4 people. Why didn't you ask that?
And
so,
do you still get like nervous for tournaments? I mean, you've played in so many now. Like, what's the pre-tournament look like for you?
Yeah, I would say like as far as like anxious nervousness, not as much. But excited, happy nervousness is still there. It's still like a reason I play. I'm like, fired up, and I want to do this for myself and my family, and you're out there, and it's still fun. I mean, but a good solid feeling that, okay, this is it. This is what you've been, these last 6 months, even running these wind sprints. This is what it's for. And so it's not really a don't mess up kind of nervousness, but like, this is time. This is it. Everybody wants to play in a big event, and I'm fortunate to play in pro events that really make that shine.
Yeah, pretty cool to represent the country too.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
It seems like you've been, obviously you've developed a few players along the way too. Is there a little added pressure there when you have a young player like you're playing with Spencer Sauter? That was what, his 3rd event, you said?
3rd main draw, yeah.
3rd main draw he's
yeah.
ever made, and it's one of the gnarliest, probably the hardest tournament you can possibly have, because everyone in the world was there. Is that a little added pressure where you're like the coach and like kind of showing this guy the way?
A lot of people have said that, and there's been some, I played a full year with Andrei Belov, who was Russian. I played a full season with Billy Maciel, who's Brazilian. And, every now and then I'll hear like, oh, here's Adam, he's the guy who'll develop talent. Or this is Adam, if you have like an international thing or whatever. And I'm like, guys, no, I just want to win.
Right.
All I care about is winning, and this is my best option for my best partner at this exact moment. And, if I'm able to, I do like it whenever when like a Spencer is just hungry and dying to do it, and he's all about it. And,
you may just have the best eye for talent.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I got to grab him before the next defender ahead of me, and I know the pecking order. I know how it goes, and all these guys that I've played with have just very much enjoyed. The beach volleyball community is such great guys. I can just go down the list: Brian Cook, Brad Lawson. These are all great guys that I've loved to play with, and been fortunate enough to, and made some lifelong friendships along the way. So
yeah, definitely. There's definitely a great lifestyle that comes along with beach volleyball, and hearing all your stories, they're basically infinite, but
yeah.
You've had a good beach volleyball life.
Yes, I have very
from
much.
Back in the day, some of my favorite stories was when you and Phil and Nick, you basically pulled them up to Myrtle Beach and trained with them for 3 years.
Yeah, those
Not
guys.
Not just training, but living.
Yeah,
right?
we had a great time. Yeah, we were down in Florida, and Matt Heath and I.
Yeah, we gotta start from the beginning of this story.
Yeah.
This one's classic, and not many people know this about Nick and Phil.
Yes, so Matt Heath and I were just starting to make some main draws, qualifier main draw type stuff, and we were down in Florida, and I'm very fortunate to have this really cool beach volleyball house facility that's right on the ocean in Myrtle Beach, which is very centrally located for the East Coast. Travis from Maryland, he knows this. So, within a day we could get down all the way down to South Florida. We could also get all the way up to New Jersey and hit basically every tournament on the East Coast. So we have this great, awesome potential place, and we were looking for a training team. So we get down to Florida, and I think Nick and Phil finished 9th in that tournament. They were like the 10th ranked team in Florida, but they had potential. Obviously, Phil, you guys don't remember this, but he had a full head of hair.
And with hair.
Yeah. And so we said, hey, would you guys be interested to come up? Phil's just in the background and wouldn't even speak. He was so like dead shy and quiet. And Nick's like, yeah, we're all about it. We want to come. So it didn't really work out. And a lot of people know this, but Phil's parents were from Switzerland, are very, 9 to 5, get a job, finish college, got your degree, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. So Phil actually, right around that same time, he took a job at a paving company, just doing some paperwork, right? And he's like, well, I don't know, we'll see. And he didn't even really tell me this, right? And Nick's like, we're coming. He's like, I'm gonna get him to come. So Nick was pushing Phil, but he's like, no, let me try this job. So Phil goes in, he sits down, and he slides his knee under, and he slams his knees into this cubicle. And he's so tall, he can see like above everybody. And I get this text, and it's like, hey, can I still come up to your place and check it out? Absolutely. So they were like, we're just going to come up for the weekend and check it out. We'll play in the tournament. And they came up, they brought a backpack for the weekend. They didn't leave for like 2 years. So we had a good time. Yeah,
You clothed them?
Yes. Yeah, we got a great spot there, and we're very lucky. And it was good because we would sit down after a tournament, we'd play them in the finals, or it would be a mixture. That week we'd be like, hey, what are some things we kind of need to work on as a group? And it wasn't as intense training as once you get out in this region, but for us out there, all kind of learning the game together, it was very fun. It was very fun. We all say that's some of the best times of our lives.
Yeah, I've definitely heard pretty much the same story, but coming from each guy now, and everyone just is like seems so grateful to have had that experience. I think they're very lucky to have that experience where you're just somehow having fun with your friends and you end up playing a ton of volleyball and a ton of high-level volleyball. And you guys didn't really even know what you were doing at that time, which was setting yourselves up to go to the West Coast and be able to compete at the highest level. And then, of course, we all know your guys' resumes from there. You played for 20 years now, and Phil and Nick's resumes are ridiculous. We don't have to go there.
Yes. Yeah, we've been very proud. For us, it was really cool just to watch them. So coming up in Austin, 2005, that was their first ever win. I think they were like the 11 seeds. So to be there with them and have them win that was just kind of special for all of us. And then it was a bummer they split up, but we understood that. And then just every event, to just see Phil like on his rise and super humble. Nothing changes about him. He comes back. At the time before he was married and everything, he would come back and stay with us for a few weeks every year after the season. So we have a fun event at the end of the year. And he'd come back and he's like, oh, I can just sleep on the floor. It's like, you got the gold medal now. I don't think he needs to do that. But that's just who he is. He's never changed. He's never, his whole motto is, he stays so humble that that's just how he is. And it's been cool. It's been fun for us to watch that full enjoyment, full rise to the top of the world.
And Adam, you've been around USA Volleyball for a while. You've seen it go through many different periods, from when Phil and Todd won gold to the last couple of years where we've missed out on some medals. Where do you think that we're at right now? Are we in a good spot? Are we in an okay spot? Because I feel like with the college system, like you said, I feel like our women's side is, even though we don't have like a dead ringer at number one, it's as strong as it's ever been just in terms of depth. But I feel like it's the men that we're kind of looking at, like, where do we go once Phil and Nick and Hayden don't play anymore?
We have April Ross, but we don't have a ringer number one team right now.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I've talked to those guys, and I think they are going to make a Tokyo push, and I hope they do, and I hope they play even LA after that, but they don't want to.
Paris and then LA.
Yeah, Paris and LA. So I think that the system is working and is producing talent. You know, we have Crab Brothers and different guys that are up and coming. Who knows what Chase is going to do. But people say, I kind of looked at it too as like, oh, their team fared better in this tournament. And I thought that was kind of an anomaly. I mean, if you look back just to Fort Lauderdale not too long ago, Nickenville dominated that event. And in theory, it was slightly stronger. The Italian guys were there. And so, you know, we do have a lot of stock in those guys, but I think they can handle it. I think that it's a group, you know, along with Hayden. They were, I thought, playing amazing ball this weekend. But kind of like Tri said, besides Nick and Phil, it's just all new teams. And if you look at, you know, the Brazilians are basically coming off their summer. So they're coming off like 14 events in a row on the Brazilian tour. So they're all fired, all pistons firing at the same time right now. And, you know, it was really, truly our first event. You know, I guess some of these guys may have played one in China, one here, one there. So, you know, we're not really fully in the heart of our season in the swing. So, no, I don't think it's anything to be worried about. But I do think that the World Tour level is physical and it's big. And, you know, it's something that, you know, looking back, would this be a different game for even just Todd Rogers a few years ago? You know, you always think that, and you know, you look at some of the teams, Doppler Hoist, and you know, he's a smaller defender, even though he is physical and strong. So, I think that the USA will be in heavy medal contention coming up in a couple of years. And I think, as Tri was saying, with this new system, Tyler's an amazing coach, overseeing everything. I was fortunate enough to play in one of the USA elite training practices, and it's good. It's very high level. It's something that we can build a base on and continue on and kind of flow right into what guys are doing. And hopefully some of the older guys, some of the, you know, the brains around the game, John Hayden, Jake Gibb, will end up continuing to share that knowledge and continue to bring everybody up.
What do you think about the, I'm interested to hear from kind of a veteran. Like you said, the game's getting a lot bigger these days, which it obviously is. What do you think about players? Because there's a lot of Euros where the defenders aren't even true defenders. It's more like blockers that have turned into defenders. They're like 6'6", 6'7" defenders. What do you think about the game transitioning? Because you were talking about earlier, like how players like Todd, and then like how would they do at this level now at this type of game? You think a lot of taller players should be looking at playing defense?
I think it's something that anyone should take into account to really complete their all-around game. You're like, oh, I only play the left. Well, you know, you need to jump on the right and figure it out, because at some point you're going to have to do a transition. You're going to have to do something along those lines. So I think if you're going one level, you know, one dimension, then you're handicapping yourself. I mean, after watching Evandro and his guy play, I mean, it seems like they are both blockers that are just jumping back there. And it works for them because it is such a big, powerful serve game.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, we're just going to put everybody out of system, and we're going to take a big area. But you know, you look at someone like a Pedro who tried to play defense, and it maybe didn't work. I remember one case, being a defender myself, I kind of like to see it whenever it fails, whenever a big guy jumps back there.
Right.
Because I always hear, oh, it's easy back there, just run around. You know, it's so easy back there, it's easy back there. Oh, I got to sprint, run to that, and jump. I'm like, it's a speech full of that's what you signed up for, okay? It's like, serve hard, run to the net, get in their face. So this was, we'd have to date check it, but 12 years ago or something, and Matt Furbringer decided to play with Sean Scott. And points-wise, that I think they thought that the game was going to what we see now.
Right.
Two big, massive guys that, you know, can side out every time and, you know, get enough to block. You know, if we get it up, we're great offensively. And that team started, I think, in points as 2 seed on the AVP. I think they played 5 events together. I think they took 3 13ths, maybe like a 7th and a 9th. And so, in theory, that type of idea failed at the time.
Right.
You know, this was quite a while ago. I was kind of happy to see it because, you know, I'm not battling anybody, but hey, it's a little tougher than you think back then.
Yeah.
So, And then they basically went back to their partners, and I think that was right around when Sean Scott started playing with John Hyden, and then all of a sudden, one of the top teams in the world.
Right.
So it really is a chemistry type thing that no matter who you are, you have to have some of this defensive knowledge.
Right.
To see Evandro back there digging balls, it's some people can make it work, but it is tougher. My thing is that I feel like it takes a year or 2 or 3
Right.
to become at a pro level, high level defender, no matter who you are. Now I had heard that there's a chance if you come back, you might try to play some defense. And you're in a slightly different position because I've heard you play libero in college.
Right.
And then you've also been in the beach game so much your whole life back in Hawaii.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'm not gonna throw too many rumors out there,
yeah.
but I'm always down. I'm open to it. I mean, I think I can do it. Obviously, I hear all players like you and Hayden and like all you blockers think you can play defense, but I do feel like, for me, I've always taken a lot of pride in my platform and defense. Then when I came out to the beach, Hayden's like, "Why are you gonna play defense? I'm not gonna go up and block. You're blocking full time. Why are we gonna practice that?" So I think he's practiced it for the last.
Yes, I believe that. And another tough thing too is that at least as far as the AVP goes, it's different on the World Tour, but at least as far as the AVP goes, if you try that transition, then you just drop like 15, 20 spots in the ranks.
Right.
Because there are defenders that, well, hey, you're not realizing you're competing against Ty Tremblay, Billy Allen, and John Mayer.
Right.
Are you better than any of those guys as defense?
There's
They're
more
like,
good
well,
defenders out there
yes,
right
there
now.
is,
than
and
there's
it's been that way for
blockers.
20 years. And I
Right.
always say that there's like 20 professional blockers and 30, 35 professional defenders. So
Well, you can't teach height.
no, you can't. No, you can't. So yeah, but on the World Tour, there are some teams. Look at that Norway team, which is one that we had expressed that was super impressive, and those guys just hit hard and do everything very well. And that defender is how tall?
The defender, I think, is 6 foot.
No,
For Norway?
6 foot.
Wait. I'm talking about the young Norwegian team.
Yeah.
Really young guys?
Mole
Yeah.
and
I think they're
Sorum.
so their BBB starts when they were kids.
Yeah,
So
they're
their
both tall
stats
now.
are still listed as like 6'4" and 6 foot, which, as I
Yeah.
understand, is wildly inaccurate.
Yeah, I felt like the defender
taller
was
than
like
me.
6'4". Yeah,
Yeah.
he was big. He was
Because
big.
when I ran into Mayer
yeah,
because the Norwegians beat him and Trevor, and
Right,
so I was asking him about him because I don't know much about him. I haven't seen much, and he compared the blocker to Phil, and then I go and look on BBB, and I was like, the kid's 6'4". Compared to Phil, but BBB I think is a little bit outdated in that because they've been playing FIVB or just like sanctioned events for a while. So when they were listed on BBB, they were
yeah, they were like a
probably
juniors team.
14, 15 years old. So how tall are they? Big kids?
200 centimeters, it says on
Yeah.
FIVB.
Quick translation, yeah. They seem big, and it's not necessarily like a guy has to be short to be this great defender. Of course, that is not it at all. It's funny because it's really more the touch on the ball and being able to read it. It's a different type setting,
Yeah.
and it's almost kind of like so many people would ask me, oh, what do you think this player would be to be a good transition from basketball to volleyball? I've been asked that a lot. And I say, well, first off, I think he had to shoot 70% from the free throw line. And the reason I say that is because with volleyball, beach volleyball, you have to have a touch on the ball.
Soft hands.
Exactly. So if you look at, there's just no way, never say never, that Shaq would be a good beach volleyball player.
Definitely not handset.
He tried once, right?
He did that, the thing with Phil and Todd or whatever, but it's, you have to have a touch on the ball. So then maybe like a defender had to shot 85%, because it's, just as a quick general rule, because I was, so much equivalation to basketball. And sure, there are tall guys that can do that. It's not necessarily a tall who's not tall. I mean, John Hyden's 6'5", maybe pushing 6'6". He slunches over a little bit. So, to me, he's the prototypical World Tour defender, and he's obviously proven it over and over and over again. He's physical, he's strong, and he's a world-class defender.
Norway's 6'3" and 6'6".
Okay.
On FIVB website.
Okay. So BBB is a total of like 8 inches outdated.
Just a few years ago.
But you saw my first foray in split blocking today.
Yes, yes, I did.
Went about as well as expected for the first attempt, but it was funny to see the dichotomy between the finals of Huntington and the semifinals. So in the finals, we saw, I think, sort of where the game is going. Everyone is huge, right? Brower 6'6", Musin 6'10" or 6'11", Evandro 6'9", 6'10", and Andre is about 6'8". And then in the semifinals, we have two split blocking teams with a max height of 6'4". I think Samoilov's is 6'4", Smedens is 6'3", 6'4". Herrera and Gavira are both about 6'3", 6'4".
I think
So-
they're all a little taller than their profiles.
Yeah, so we'll say definitely no taller than 6'5". Like no one was taller than you out there.
Right.
And I just thought it was funny to see the contrast in that. To see that you can have a smaller, sort of low set, shooting, moving the ball around team in the semifinals of these events. And then you have these just monsters in the finals too.
Yeah, like Adam said. Well, Adam was saying that players have been, or people have been saying that the game's going big for a long time. But look at like the teams that are winning the Olympics. It was Allison and Bruno, which is a traditional small big. Phil and Nick back in '08, and that's all after when people were saying that the game was going to go
Correct,
big, right?
correct.
So it's not necessarily like the old school is or the traditional small and big is going out of style. There might just be more big players out there nowadays.
Yes, I believe so. I think the way the game's changed, the way you can set is just draw some of these indoor guys out there, and let's just swing as hard as we can. The Russians are a good example of that. I mean, I'm sure all those guys are indoor technically trained. I know most people are from the beach, but like professional for years, or they're in line for that. But yeah, I mean, if you look at it in the Olympics, it was Bruno the shortest player in the Olympics.
Germany in 2012 too.
Yeah, Bruno was
I
possibly.
think
Austrian
I
for
think
small.
Seidel from
Oh,
Austria is
correct.
5'10",
Correct.
and
Correct.
split blocking at 5'10" in the Olympics.
Correct, yeah. But even if you look at it, you know, Bruno was arguably the best player in the world for 2 years in a row at 6 foot. I mean, I walked past him and felt like I was taller than him. But yes, everybody says that. Is it going big or is it going? I mean, both Polish teams aren't that big. Both Latvian teams aren't that big. So, you know, there is something to be said about having the skill and ball control. You know, we aren't going to come out in this new Norway or some of the Brazilian teams. We're just going to rip as hard as we can. We have to have that skill along with it. And I think that's really more where the game is going. Now, the one thing that seems to be definite after being out there is that everybody is physical. They can jump high and they can hit hard. And that I don't think is changing too much. Even all the way down to a Bruno, even Alvaro, all the Polish guys, they are bringing it.
Do you think that that's why? Do you think that we've not seen the last of Adrian Karambula, but do you think that that style of game is sort of being phased out at that level? Because at some point, you know, people have figured out how to pass the sky ball. You know, they've seen that for a couple of years, and he's so shooty. Do you think that like that's sustainable, that kind of game?
I was told by World Tour players that when he first came on the scene, he was tough to read. And then with such now, as Ty was saying, with different coaches and different scouting, that so many people were able to kind of understand his game a little bit more. But then looking back, we're just how far out are we from Todd, who did not crush balls.
Phil wouldn't hit.
Yeah. Which is
He'll never help them.
Still mad about that. It's so you always say that, you always think that, everybody. I remember in the NBA were saying, oh, look, it's going big, stronger, faster, whatever, and then all of a sudden Steve Nash won like 2 MVPs. And I was like, So
Steph Curry.
yeah, exactly. So it's it's who's the most skilled, who's the best, that's really what I think it comes down to.
Yeah, whoever's the best volleyball player at the end of the day is going to be the basically MVP of the World Tour or AVP. It's never going to be like that one specialized guy. The reason Phil wins all these awards is, yes, he's the most freakish athlete, but he also has that work ethic that you were talking about, Adam, and he's the most skilled.
Most skilled. People talk about it, this block or whatever. He's the best setter in the world.
That's by far the most impressive
It's unbelievable.
award that
It's
he's ever gotten.
Yeah, and
It's
he's
like, it's
like
thing.
truly has been for like 14 years straight.